Hello snowboarders of the internet, I'm your host Avran LeFeber, and in this video we're going to be reviewing the Nitro Optisym Snowboard, their new asymmetrical snowboard for 2022. This board features Nitro's Cam Out camber, which is traditional camber to a little bit of early rise or rocker in the nose and the tail. Basically, it's cam rock. You get that snap and pop of traditional camber, but you're going to get that ease of entry in and out of turns, as well as a little bit better area to press when you're playing around on this board. This board is available in 146, 149, 153, and 156. I rode this board at Copper Mountain on a mostly bluebird day. There was a storm off in the distance rolling in. There were slightly warmer temperatures, low to moderate winds. You had chunder snow, lumpy groomers, firm fast groomers, kind of just a mix of everything in there. And I rode it with my Rome Black Label bindings and my K2 Thraxis boots. This board comes in slightly past the middle of the road, freestyle flex to it. Now there is a key defined flex point in the nose and the tail about midway between the inserts and the upkick. You'll just notice that right when you press into it. So you got this softer section, then you hit that flex point, and then it's just stiffer through to the middle with a moderate amount of torsional flex. Now when you're flat basing, you do get a little chatter in the nose, but it completely stops right when it hits that flex point that I talked about. So it completely just dissipates it. And when you're in really rutted out terrain, that's when you start to notice that it does get bucked around. You want to keep your knees a little bit more bent, help absorb that chatter or just those jarring hits. With this board being cam out camber, it rides like it's predominantly traditional camber. It's just the way it feels. You don't get like that load off the rocker where it meets the camber. Instead, you get that load and snap of traditional camber, and there's a slight delay to the response of it. So when you load it up, it isn't really reactive. It more or less springs back, but with that slight delay. So you got to be a little more calculated when you pop with it. With that said, you can launch a roller, a side hit, a cat track gap with ease. This board can handle jumping, small, medium, and to an extent, some large stuff. I mean, it wouldn't be my go-to board from Nitro for that, but it can handle it. Now, with that delayed reaction of the pop on this board, the lip does end up doing a little bit more work. So if you're more of a laid-back rider and you let the lip do the job, you're going to be fine. But if you're expecting the rebound and snap of the board to do the job, like you're hitting loading dock style jumps, it's going to be a little bit lackluster for you. This is the first board this past season that I hooked up on buttering and I got shit whipped to the ground. And part of that was because I didn't have my weight balanced out on the tail, just right where that flex point is between the inserts and the upkick. I just had it more or less, I was just sitting on the outside of it. It hooked and it shit whipped me, and I ended up bruising like 4 ribs. With that said, you gotta be a little more calculated with how you butter with this. You want to be in that sweet spot and you want to get your weight out. That camber section is going to fight you. So when you're like getting sideways, you're playing with it, it may push down a little bit and it just tends to be a little bit hooky. When it comes to jibs, you want to go a little bit faster. You're going to muscle this board just a little bit. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. It's almost like you're finessing it when you set down in a tail press or a nose press. You want to push into that board where you can, right ideally where that flex point is out to the tip. And when you do, you get a solid press with it. Now when you go sideways, it's got that right blend of flex to just really cradle the feature. It doesn't clap out, but it doesn't feel like you're just teeter-tottering and doing a balance act. It's wrapping itself right around it, and you can just make it to the end of the feature. The other thing that's nice is that camber section does give you pop to get off the end of anything that you're on. So if you want to get over those like death runouts where they're like a whale's vagina in the landing, you're good to go. With this board being asymmetrical, you'd think that it would just rip a friggin' carve. It doesn't. There's limitations on it. That's one of the big things I really want to talk about with this board. When you get it on edge, it just doesn't feel as locked in. Like you can't lay it over as much. And then when you're on the heel side edge, yes, it is asymmetrical, so it does compensate for our body's anatomy and it does allow you to dig a bigger trench on it. But once again, you don't feel locked in. The overall edge-to-edge transmission is more slow and methodical. It's not like you're gonna rip a hard carve. And when you really push this board, you start to realize its limitations, that the tail tends to kick out. It just doesn't want to grip. You feel like you have to be light on your feet whenever you're on edge with this board, and that you can't just lay a trench with it. Who's this board for? The asym loving freestyle guy. I'll be honest, I didn't like this board. I got shit whipped on it because it was hooky. And part of that hookiness is the camber profile, the fact that it's asym and the core profiling in there. It just has limitations. I've ridden better asymmetrical boards. There really wasn't anything mind-blowing to this deck that made me go, holy shit, this is good. If anything, it reminded me of the old Nitro Fury, but with a softer flex to it. Like the Fury you could rip with. This thing, not so much. Overall, at the end of the day, really wasn't that impressed with it. Comparable boards, the Yes Greats, the GNU Headspace, the Ride Zero. Binding recommendations, the Nitro Team, the Bent Metal Transfer, the Rome Vice. This has been my review of the Nitro Optisym. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you own one? Are you going to buy one? Leave me a comment down below. Let's have a conversation about this snowboard. If you're new here, remember to subscribe, click the bell, get those notifications. That way you're not missing any of the videos we got coming out for all you snowboarders of the internet. And if you really like what we're doing over here and you want to support us further, swing on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. Sure, I could tell you more here, but I got a video over there that explains it so much better. As always, I've been your host, Avran LeFeber, and I'll see you in another video.